Well, hi and welcome. It's Ken here from LiveLink Training. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a realistic horizon line in your composite images. Often when replacing a sky, it's common to have like a straight cut where the sky and the land meet. And it's so far away, the horizon, does it really matter that it's like a scalpel cut? Well, I think it does. And I'd be interested to hear what you think at the end of the tutorial. I learned this technique from a super trainer called Glyn Dewis. Thanks Glyn, it's been a real time saver for me. And it involves using the pen tool to draw a straight line and a brush. Now before we start, I'd just like to ask that if you find my videos useful and you want to support me in my efforts to always provide premium video training for you for free, all I ask is that you click that subscribe button at the end of the video and become one of my online learning community. This will mean that you won't ever miss when I upload a new video, and it will help me greatly to get the most out of the YouTube algorithm and reach more Photoshop and Lightroom users. Alternatively, you can share my videos on your social media and with your friends. Okay, enough of that. Thanks for listening. Let's dig in. Okay, step one. First, let's make the brush we need. And it just so happens that there is a brush that comes with Photoshop that we can use as a starting point. Then make a couple of little changes and make it perfect for this job of really softening that interface between the foreground and the background. Now in the current version of Photoshop, it's in the legacy brushes, and these are brushes that were taken out of Photoshop quite a while ago really. They're still in Photoshop, but they're just not necessarily loaded by default. So I'll show you where they are. So if we go to the brush, or press B on the keyboard, and then we go to the brushes panel, and if we go to the flyout menu in the brushes panel, you'll see that down here we've got legacy brushes. If you click on that, it'll ask you, do you want to load them in? Yes, you do. And then what you'll have is a set of brushes called legacy brushes. And there's loads of legacy brushes in here. The one we want is a group of them called faux finish brushes. And then if we go down to the bottom of that section there, we've got a brush 50, the veining feather 2. And this is our start brush. And we're going to turn it into this brush, which I made earlier in true Blue Peter fashion, and I've called it the realistic horizon. So we're going to make it all soft and squishy round both edges, because at the moment it's just a stamping brush. If we click on it, it'll stamp down, but we don't want that. We want something like this. Now we've selected this brush, what we want to do is jazz it up a bit, and we can do that in the brush settings panel. And here we can see this is the brush we've got selected, and it's just a small brush likeness of a feather basically. But what I want to do is to make it a little bit more dynamic. So we need to change some of the settings. So first let's go to shape dynamics. So I'm going to double click and make sure I've got a tick, and we've got these sliders here. And all I'm going to do is make a little change. I'm going to put size jitter to about 5%, something like that. You could experiment. And the angle jitter to about 15%. These are things that seem to work well for me. Yeah, 15–16%. It's not that critical. And jitter just means random. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the size of the brush, and it's going to change it a little bit, so make it slightly bigger, slightly smaller every time you click and drag. And the angle jitter is that it's just going to change the angle of the brush as you do it. Okay, now let's go to scattering. So on scattering, I want it on both axes, so I'm going to put a tick in that box, and then I want the scattering to be again about 5%. This one, you're a little bit better just typing it in. 5%. I'm going to leave the count to 1 and leave the count jitter to 0%. Now you can see the shape of the brush that we've got here now. And we just want another couple of things, and they're in brush tip shape. So I'm going to double click on that. And down here we can see the spacing slider. And all I want is about 5% spacing. So I want to clump all this together a little bit more. So if we look down to about 5%, something like that. Might have to type it in. Oh, there I've got 3. Let's type a 5 in there. Now if you look at this, what we've got is this side of the brush is quite spiky. And this side of the brush is quite soft, and it's the soft side that I want. And what I want to do is to be able to use it in a mask to basically mask out parts of this horizon from the foreground image. So it'd be ideal if that softer side was on the bottom. So to get that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little rotation thing and twirl it round to -180. And I'll just type 180 in just to make sure it's accurate, but it don't really matter that much. But now I've got the softer edge of the brush on the bottom, which is perfect for what I want. And that's it, that's us brush made. So now I need to save out that brush. So I'm going to click on that little doohickey icon at the bottom of the panel. And I'm going to call it, well, what can we call it? Yeah, realistic horizon 2, because I've already got one that I made earlier. And then click OK. And if we go back to the brushes panel now, we'll see that we've got my realistic horizon that I did earlier, and we've got the realistic horizon 2 brush. And that brush we need to be selected. Okay, step 2, let's put our background together. So the first image I've got is this one here, and I'd like to cut this off at this horizon line. So I'm going to select my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to, just a minute, I missed it, there we go. I'm going to drag out a marquee and just finish it somewhere on this horizon line, something like that. Now I want to delete this, so I've got to make sure that it's not a background layer. So I'm just going to go over to the padlock in the layers panel and click on it. And now if I hit the backspace or the delete key, that will disappear. And then Control and D to deselect that selection. Okay, next I need to do the same with the sky image, but the other way around. Here's Brighton Pier, but I'm afraid I want to lose it. So again, I've got my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to start as close as I can to the horizon, drag it out, make a marquee of the bit I don't want, make sure that it's not got a padlock on, and press the backspace or the delete key. And then Control and D to deselect that selection. And then I'm going to get my move tool, and I'm going to move this sky into the elephant landscape. Click and drag back, and then just fit it into position where I think it looks good. Now it's in the wrong place in the layers panel, it's obviously covering up the elephants. So what I'm going to do is just drag it underneath and drop it like that. And that's fine, and it don't look bad, but if we zoom in on it, you'll see that it's actually like a scalpel cut. And it should have like grass in the background, not this really scalpel cut edge. So that's where we're going to use the brush that we've created. But first I need a line that I can combine our brush with. And to do that I need the pen tool. So I'm going to press either P on the keyboard or go and select it from the toolbox. And what I want is the full pen tool. And then I'm going to just go just this side of the horizon, just off, and click. And you'll see I've got like an elastic band, that's called rubber banding, so I can see what I'm doing. Now if you don't see that, it's going to make it difficult for you to do this. So if you go up to the cog, the settings cog, if you've not got a ticking rubber band, if you put one in, then you'll have this rubber band. So now I can go across the horizon, just come off the image again, and make a click. So I've now used the pen tool to create a line. Now it's wanting me to keep going and create more points, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to press the escape key. And what that'll do is it'll just stop it making any more points. Now this line appears as a work path. This is a vector line. And if you don't want to see it, we can click underneath the work path in the paths panel. And when we need to see it, if we just go back and click on it, it'll bring it back again. Now I want to use a mask so that if I need to, it's reversible. I can go back. So I'm going to go back to my layers panel. I'm going to make sure that I've got a mask on this layer here. And I've done that. All I've done is just gone down to the mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel and clicked on it, and I've got a white mask, and that's where I'm going to run this stroke across, which is here. Now I'm going back to my paths panel. I'll make sure that my work path's active, which it is because you can see it, and then right down at the bottom of the panel, this second icon in, if I hold my mouse over it, it'll say stroke path with brush. Well, that's brilliant. That's exactly what I want to do. So I've got my brush, my realistic horizon 2, and we'll set it to about, let's say 40 pixels. In this case, just a little bit smaller. Select the brush and make sure that we're working on the mask, which we are. And then I'm going to go back to my paths panel, and down at the bottom of the paths panel, there's all these icons. And like I said, the second one along is stroke path with brush. So I'm just going to click on that, and boom, you see what's happened to that background. Now that looks pretty good. Let's get rid of the work path and just zoom in a little bit. Now look at that. We've got a really realistic background now of all wispy grass and things, which just looks a little bit more realistic in the background than a straight scalpel cut. Well, that's it for this video. Let's have a quick recap. What have we done? Well, we've created a dynamic brush to give a softened effect on the horizon. We've then used the pen tool to create a vector path across that horizon. We've then added a layer mask to make it reversible. And then we've stroked the path using the brush that we've created. Let me know if it works for you. Please remember to hang on a bit and click the subscribe button right at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.